Hi, I'm Zach. You may know me better as my online name Zadika, and this is my post-mortem about my Ludum Dare 27 entry, The Ones You Love. I love Ludum Dare. I really do. I love making something in 48 hours, playing all the games, and the Ludum Dare community in general. So here comes Ludum Dare 27. It's a few minutes before the announcement of the theme. I'm sitting at the edge of my seat, butterflies in my stomach, and more than anything else, I'm excited. And then the theme gets announced. And it's like a slap in the face. Not because of the theme itself, but because it's not about waiting anymore. It's about doing. It's all on me to do something. The clock is already ticking, and if I fail, I have no one to blame but myself. It's been like that for every Ludum Dare I participate in. This was my fourth Ludum Dare, and I've never had the experience of hearing a theme, coming up with a game idea soon after, and sticking with it the whole time. So after 10 seconds was announced, I struggled to find an idea that I liked, was possible to create in 2 days, and would fit within that theme. And after about 2 hours of twiddling my thumbs, I think to myself, I might as well create a platformer. Don't get me wrong, I have nothing against platformers. I actually really like platformers. But with all options being equal, I will rarely pick the one that is chosen the most. And that seems to be the case with Ludum Dare. We seem to get more platformers than anything else. Not that I have anything against it. I still enjoy playing them after they're made. It's just not something I want to create. But after 2 hours of not being able to come up with an idea, that platformer is looking awfully appealing because it's something I can start on. I can start on that platformer engine right away. I ended up with an idea sort of like Braid, but with 4 characters instead of 1. Basically, each level would take place in a 10-second time span, and you control the movements of those characters one at a time within that 10-second window. The interesting bit was that you could rewind time and alter each character's movements independently. And you would only be able to beat a level by using the 4 characters together, going back and forth to modify their movements to reach the goal of the level by the end of the 10 seconds. By the end of the first night, I had the engine all built for controlling the 4 characters, and I went to bed feeling pretty confident, which really isn't typical for the first night of Ludum Dare. The next morning, I woke up and got back to work. A few hours later, and I made an ugly discovery. I realized that the way I implemented the recording system did not play nice with moving objects on the board other than the 4 wizards. I tried to adapt my engine, but every problem I fixed seemed to start another. Eventually, I just gave up on the other moving board objects and thought the game still might be fun with just static objects on each board. So I made a test level. It was crap. It just wasn't fun. It was a jumping game, and if you didn't like where you jumped, you could rewind and try jumping again. It just wasn't that good. At this point, I faced a decision that so many people face in Ludum Dare. I could continue on with a mediocre game idea, I could give up, or I could start something new. I really wasn't interested in continuing with the jumping game. Giving up can feel awfully appealing. You start to reason with yourself, thinking of how much fun you could still have this weekend before having to go back to your normal responsibilities. But I knew I'd be so disappointed in myself if I gave up. So with 24 hours left, I started over. I started thinking about the theme again. I googled 10 seconds, like I'm sure many of you did. What were we even expecting to find on Google? And then I had a thought, well, what can happen in 10 seconds? A whole lot can happen in 10 seconds. I mean, 10 seconds is enough time to make the best decision of your life, or your worst. And there I had it. I had my game idea. I wanted to make a game where the player had 10 seconds to make choices that would have a major impact on the rest of the game. Then I had to decide what genre of game I could use this idea with. I considered a bunch of genres, but ultimately decided to use my idea as a story element in a point-and-click adventure game. I've always loved point-and-click adventure games. I grew up playing games like Monkey Island, King's Quest, The Dig, and my all-time favorite, Loom. If you haven't played Loom, you really need to put it on your list of games to play. So I had this idea, then the gameplay quickly developed in my head. The player would choose different 10-second windows at different points in a single timeline, and the choices you make in one 10-second window would affect later 10-second windows. I didn't have the entire story fleshed out, but I knew I wanted the entire game to take place in a single house. So I started drawing different rooms in a house. I went super low res as a tribute to early point-and-click adventure games, and so I could rapidly create art assets. As I was drawing the rooms, the plot almost developed itself, and I was soon able to write down the entire plot of the game. It took about 3 hours for me to finish the art and write out the plot. It was pretty late into the night at that point. I had seriously considered working nonstop through the night, but at about 4:30 in the morning, my brain had checked out and I'd crashed into my bed. I woke up 4 hours later and went back to work. That last day is always the most stressful, when you feel that clock ticking down to the deadline. I had to program the entire game in about 12 hours. I was determined. I wasn't going to let anything distract me. In the end, I created something playable at least, and I even had some time to generate some music and sound to throw into the game. I uploaded my game right at the deadline, and right after that, I think the one thing that I always think after I've uploaded a Ludum Dare game. This is such a piece of crap. Maybe it's human nature to be harsher on your own work, or only see the faults, or find faults that really don't exist. But just like I always think that my games are crap when I submit them, After I wait a while and take a breather, look at my game with fresh eyes, it's really not that bad, maybe even good. And after reading some very nice comments about the game, I feel even better about it, and I remember why I really love Ludum Dare. The rush of working so hard on something, completing a game, and being part of such a great community. So what went right and what went wrong? Let's start with what went wrong. I felt rushed to pick an idea and just go with it. In Ludum Dare, you're always under the gun. But choosing a game that you think would work as opposed to a game you want to make or would want to play or would find satisfying, that's just a bad move. Losing the first 24 hours. It happens, and when it happens, you can only think of one question. How much better could my game have been if I worked on it the entire time? And there's nothing you can do about it. The only thing you can do is learn from your mistake and hope it doesn't happen next time. The audio. Prior to the competition, I had been brushing up on my GarageBand skills, and I had a mic ready to go for sound effects. But with only an hour left and no audio in my game, I had to turn to online generators. And it doesn't sound that bad, it actually sounds pretty good in the game, but I didn't meet one of the goals I had going into the event. Alright, so let's talk about what went right. I let go of my original idea. If I didn't let go of my first idea, I probably would have ended up with some mediocre half-baked platformer. The graphics. The graphics in my game are really low resolution, but that actually worked out alright because they look pretty good and they didn't take much time to create. I didn't make the game hard. It's actually pretty easy to beat. It should only take 5 or 10 minutes. And my original idea was going to make the gameplay a whole lot longer. Originally, I was going to have you fix things in the past to change things in the future, but if you had to go back to that same past and forgot to make the original change, it was going to mess up the future and you'd have to go back again to make that same change. It would have led to a lot more repetition. It would have made the game longer, but it wouldn't have been as fun. It wouldn't have been as potent. The plot makes an emotional connection with the player, I think. It's hard for me to know this one for sure. Because I created the game, I kind of feel this emotional disconnect when I play it. But from what others have told me, the game did have an emotional impact on them, which is something I was hoping was going to happen. I actually left out the plot of the game from this video, hoping it wouldn't spoil anything for you. So that was my Ludum Dare 27 experience. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you go play my game and enjoy my game. If you do, let me know. I'm going to go play some more games and rate them and leave comments on them and start counting the days until Ludum Dare 28, and I hope to see you there too.